The alien starship drifted through the void, silent and massive like a dark shadow swallowed by the stars. Its hull shimmered faintly under the distant sun, reflecting streaks of light that made it seem alive, almost breathing. Inside, the atmosphere was tense. Every corridor hummed with energy, but none felt the same pressure as the Queen's chamber. There Jarka, the alien queen, stood like a storm waiting to break. Her golden eyes glowed, her claws clicking against the polished metal floor as she paced with a power that made even the largest crew members shiver. Her armor, her sacred armor, lay in pieces before her, once a shining testament to her strength and authority. It was now battered, dented, and scorched from the last brutal battle. Each plate had been damaged, some bent beyond recognition. The Queen's chest rose and fell rapidly as her anger built, each breath vibrating with fury. She could hear the whispers of her own advisors, the alien engineers who had failed to repair it, frozen in fear at her presence. "Who fixed my armor?" Her roar echoed through the chamber, a sound so violent it made the walls tremble. Every technician and soldier in the room ducked instinctively, some nearly falling in panic. The question was not a request, it was a command, a challenge. No one dared answer. Then from the far end of the chamber, a quiet voice broke the silence. "I did." All eyes turned to the speaker. A human, small and simple in appearance, stepped forward. His uniform was worn, patched in several places, but his posture was steady. He did not look like a warrior or a hero. He looked ordinary. Yet there was a calm in his gaze, a confidence that was almost defiant. "You?" Jarka's voice was sharp, dripping with disbelief. "A human?" She stepped closer, towering over him, her glowing eyes narrowing. "Do you understand the gravity of touching my sacred armor? Do you know the honor it represents?" The human did not flinch. "Yes, Your Majesty," he said softly. "I understand. And I did it because it needed fixing. I am an engineer. That is my duty." For a moment, Jarka felt a flicker of something she had not expected, curiosity. No human had ever dared speak to her with such calmness, with such courage. Humans were known across the galaxy for their fragility, for their weakness, for their tendency to crumble under pressure. They were tolerated, yes, but never trusted. And yet, here was one standing tall in front of her, claiming responsibility for her armor. The Queen's roar returned, stronger and louder this time, but it carried less anger and more shock. "Do you realize what you have done? No human has ever touched my armor, let alone repaired it. Do you think I will allow this audacity?" The human bowed slightly, a gesture of respect, yet his eyes never left hers. "I only wanted to make sure it would protect you, Your Majesty. I wanted to do what no one else could." Silence fell again, heavier than before. Her advisors looked at one another nervously, wondering if their queen had lost her mind. The humans were simple creatures, fragile, unpredictable. But this one, there was something different. Something she could not ignore. Finally, she knelt slightly to inspect the armor. The pieces gleamed with a strange perfection, polished and strengthened in ways even the alien engineers had failed to achieve. Every dent had been carefully reshaped, every burn carefully neutralized. It was not just repaired, it was reborn. Jarka straightened, her mind racing. "Explain yourself," she demanded, her voice a mixture of suspicion and wonder. "How can a human accomplish what my finest engineers could not?" The human lifted his head, his voice steady and clear. "I observed, Your Majesty. I thought. I tried again and again until it worked. I did not rush. I did not let fear stop me. I just kept working." Something inside the Queen shifted. Respect, admiration? She could not name it yet, but she knew one thing. This human was unlike any she had ever seen. And though her pride demanded dismissal, a small, dangerous part of her wanted to see what he could do next. Alex, the human engineer, was no ordinary mechanic. In a fleet dominated by towering, brilliant aliens, humans were often dismissed as weak and fragile, more suited for menial tasks than anything meaningful. Yet here he was, standing before the most feared ruler in the galaxy, his hands the ones that had restored her sacred armor. For him, it had not been a matter of courage, it was a matter of purpose. He remembered the moment he first laid eyes on the shattered plates. The jagged edges, the scorched surfaces, and the delicate energy conduits that ran like veins across the armor's surface all spoke to him, not as obstacles, but as a challenge. While alien engineers panicked at the thought of the Queen's wrath, Alex worked silently, carefully studying each piece, running simulations in his mind. He knew the Queen's life depended on this armor, and that knowledge alone sharpened his focus. The crew had watched him work from a distance, whispering nervously. "A human cannot fix it," one muttered. "He'll fail and the Queen will be enraged." But Alex ignored them. Patience, observation, and persistence were traits humans had honed over millennia. He disassembled, measured, reshaped, rewired, and polished. Every strike of his tools was precise, every adjustment deliberate. Hours passed. Sweat dripped down his brow, but he never faltered. Finally, he stepped back and surveyed his work. The armor gleamed with a perfection that no alien engineer had achieved. Not only was it repaired, but it was enhanced. Tiny adjustments to the energy conduits allowed for smoother distribution of force. Subtle realignments in the plating increased mobility, without sacrificing protection. Alex had not only restored the armor, he had made it stronger, faster, and more efficient. When Jarka finally lifted the armor, her eyes widened. The reflective surfaces shimmered under the chamber lights, and the once battered plates now seemed almost alive, responding to the smallest shift in movement. This is, she began, her voice a mixture of awe and disbelief. Her eyes scanned every joint, every seam, every polished edge. How could you do what my best engineers could not? Alex bowed respectfully. I observed carefully, Your Majesty. I noticed what others overlooked. I thought about the problem from every angle. And I tried again and again until it worked. That is all humans do. We keep trying. Jarka took a step closer, studying him. Her mind struggled to comprehend. Humans were small, physically weak and fragile, yet here one stood having done something impossible, his calmness in the face of her fury, his focus under pressure. There was a strength in him that went beyond muscle or technology. You dare speak to me this way, she said, her voice still tinged with anger, but now mixed with curiosity. You dare claim responsibility for my armor? I do, Alex said simply. Because it mattered. It was my duty to ensure your armor protected you. That is all that mattered to me. Jarka's gaze softened just slightly, and for the first time she saw the truth in his words. Strength was not always raw power. Sometimes it was patience. Sometimes it was persistence. Sometimes, as she now realized, it was courage. The courage to act when others hesitated, to do what no one else dared. For a long moment, silence filled the chamber. The alien advisors shifted uncomfortably, unsure of what to say or do. The Queen's roar, so familiar and feared, was absent. Instead, a new sound hovered in the air. Curiosity. Finally, Jarka spoke, her voice quieter now, almost reverent. You have done something remarkable, human. Perhaps I underestimated your kind. Alex merely nodded. He did not seek praise. It was enough for him to know the armor was whole again and the Queen was safe. And in that silent, tense moment, a subtle bond began to form between them. It was not friendship, not yet, but respect, rare and fragile, began to grow. And in the vast emptiness of the starship, amidst suspicion and fear, that small spark would become something far greater. The chamber doors opened with a low hum, revealing the training arena beyond. The arena was vast, a perfect space for testing strength, speed, and skill. Rows of hovering drones hovered in formation, their metallic bow dies reflecting the chamber lights. Jarka's armored form moved forward, each step echoing with authority. She looked to Alex, her eyes piercing as if trying to see the very intentions within him. This armor, she said, her voice a mix of suspicion and anticipation, must withstand my tests. If it fails, human, it will be your end. Alex nodded, his hands clasped behind his back. I understand, Your Majesty, he replied calmly. There was no fear in his voice, only focus, only resolve. He had seen countless systems fail in simulations, and countless repairs tested under pressure. Yet his confidence was not arrogance, it was certainty, born from careful observation and endless trial. Jarka stepped into the center of the arena. She raised her energy blade, the weapon humming with power. Sparks danced along the edges as she swung it in a series of complex maneuvers. Every movement was deliberate, precise, and deadly. The drones responded, darting toward her in programmed attacks, and her armor absorbed each blow. The plating flexed with her motions, the energy conduits glowing faintly as they redistributed the force. Alex watched intently. He could see the subtle shifts in the armor, the way the plates moved with her body, how energy flowed through the conduits. Each strike, each parry, each pivot confirmed that his calculations and adjustments had been correct. Still he remained silent, letting Jarka experience the results for herself. The Queen's crew gasped. Never had they seen their ruler move so freely, so powerfully, without even a hint of resistance or pain. The armor did not just protect, it enhanced. It responded to every motion, anticipating her needs in a way that almost seemed alive. For the first time, the alien technicians, who had doubted him, stared at Alex with astonishment. Jarka's golden eyes scanned him briefly, a mixture of disbelief and grudging respect flickering across her features. "This is impossible," she muttered, barely audible over the hum of the drones and the clash of energy blades. A human, and yet... "This armor..." Alex stepped forward slightly, speaking carefully. "Your Majesty, the armor is not just metal and energy. It is a system. Strength is part of it, yes, but care, observation, and patience are equally important. I repaired it with understanding, not just force." For a moment, Jarka froze mid-swing. The thought struck her. Humans, though weak in body, possessed something her kind often lacked: perception, adaptability, and perseverance. They looked deeper, tried harder, and refused to surrender to challenges. It was alien in its simplicity, yet astonishing in effect. The drones attacked again, faster this time, forming unpredictable patterns. Jarka moved without hesitation, every strike precise, every dodge flawless. She could feel the armor working with her, the energy flowing seamlessly as though it had learned her movements in real time. Her chest heaved not with exhaustion but exhilaration. Finally she stopped. The drones hovered harmlessly, their circuits recording the failure of their attack patterns. Jarka lowered her weapon, her eyes fixed on Alex. There was no anger in her gaze now, only astonishment and the tiniest trace of admiration. "You," she said slowly, choosing her words with care. "You have done what no alien has managed. How can such a fragile creature achieve this?" Alex's response was calm, measured, and simple. "I did not rely on strength alone. I observed, I thought, and I tried again. Humans endure by learning, adapting, and never giving up." Jarka's breath caught and she took a step closer. For the first time she felt something unfamiliar stirring within her, respect tinged with awe, perhaps even something more, something she could not yet name. And in that silent, tense arena, amidst the hum of drones and the echo of energy blades, a bond began to form. Not friendship, not trust, not yet, but a connection born from courage, skill, and a recognition of something rare, something human. Jarka finally turned, her gaze lingering on Alex for a heartbeat longer than necessary. "Perhaps," she said quietly, almost to herself, "there is more to your kind than I realized." Alex only nodded. That was enough for him. For now the armor had passed its test and the Queen was alive. But both knew this was only the beginning. The hum of the starship shifted suddenly. Red lights flashed across the corridors, accompanied by alarms that shook the walls. Alex's sharp eyes flicked to the console. Enemy vessels, larger, faster, and more advanced than anything the fleet had faced in decades, were closing in on them. The sensors confirmed what the human engineer already feared. They had minutes before the first strike would hit the starship. Jarka strode into the command deck, her massive form radiating power. The alien crew scrambled to their stations, issuing orders with practiced efficiency, but the Queen's eyes were fixed on Alex. She had seen him handle impossible repairs before, but this was different. Lives, not just hers, but every crew member's, were at stake. "Your Majesty," Alex said, his voice calm amidst the chaos, "the armor you wear can help you survive this battle, but it needs one final enhancement. If we integrate a redirection matrix, incoming energy attacks can be absorbed and returned." "I need 10 minutes. Jarka froze, her mind racing. 10 minutes. The enemy ships were within firing range now. 10 minutes could mean total annihilation. Her instinct screamed at her to refuse. Fury, pride, and centuries of command demanded she act immediately, to fight without delay. Yet when she looked at him, at the calm, unwavering human who had already defied all expectations, she felt a strange pull, a flicker of trust she had never experienced before. "You dare gamble with my life?" she demanded, her voice both challenge and curiosity. "I am not gambling," Alex replied steadily. "I have calculated every outcome. If you allow me this time, your survival is almost certain. If not, well then the risk is yours." For a heartbeat, silence filled the room. Jarka's golden eyes met his, searching for any sign of deceit or weakness. None came. His gaze was steady, focused, unshakable. Something inside her shifted. Pride warred with reason. Then reason won. "Do it," she commanded finally, her voice sharp but carrying an edge of trust. "You have 10 minutes, human. Fail, and your life is mine." Alex bowed slightly, acknowledging the gravity of her words, and immediately moved to work. Sparks flew, circuits hummed, and alien energy pulsed beneath his skilled hands. He worked with speed and precision, adapting alien technology with human ingenuity. Tiny energy conduits were rerouted, the armor's plating reinforced, and the redirection matrix integrated seamlessly. Each modification was a balance of science and intuition. The crew watched in awe as their queen's armor began to glow with a new, radiant light. The queen herself paced, waiting, her massive fingers tapping against her energy blade. Time felt suspended. Every second stretched endlessly as Alex continued, sweat dripping from his brow, yet his hands never faltering. Finally, he stepped back. "It is ready," he said simply, his voice calm despite the chaos. Jarka lifted her armor, now glowing with an unfamiliar brilliance. "We shall see," she murmured, more to herself than anyone else. The first enemy ships had begun firing, energy blasts streaking toward them like deadly comets. She raised her blade and instinctively the armor responded. The redirection matrix pulsed, absorbing the blasts, then firing them back in precise arcs that destroyed 2 attacking vessels instantly. Her chest heaved, not from exhaustion but from a mixture of exhilaration and disbelief. She turned to Alex, her eyes wide, her voice trembling with awe. "You saved me," she whispered, the words foreign on her tongue, laden with emotions she had never allowed herself to feel before. Alex merely nodded, modest, yet proud. "I did what needed to be done. Humans endure by adapting. We survive by thinking, by learning, by acting. That is all." For the first time in centuries, Jarka looked at a human not with condescension, not with suspicion, but with respect. And somewhere deep inside, a new feeling began to grow, something neither pride nor duty could contain. The battle had begun. But for Jarka and the human engineer, a silent understanding had been forged in the fire of preparation and courage. They were no longer queen and servant. They were allies, bound by skill, trust, and the impossible bond of life preserved against the odds. And in that moment, Alex realized something profound. Sometimes, survival was not just about strength. Sometimes it was about trust, courage, and the willingness to take a calculated risk for something or someone worthy. The starship trembled as the enemy fleet closed in, their weapons firing like a storm of fire across the void. Energy beams slammed into the hull, shaking the decks and throwing crew members off balance. Jarka stood in the center of the command arena, her newly enhanced armor glowing with an almost blinding brilliance. Every movement she made was fluid, every step precise, as if the armor had become an extension of her very body. Alex stood nearby, monitoring systems and giving quick adjustments, his mind working faster than any machine. Sweat streaked his face, but his hands never wavered. He had spent hours integrating the redirection matrix into the armor, recalibrating the energy flow, and now, every attack the enemy launched was being absorbed, redirected, and returned with devastating effect. The first enemy ships disintegrated under their own energy, turned against them by the Queen's armor. The crew gasped and cheered, but Jarka barely noticed. Her golden eyes were fixed on Alex, the human who had made this possible. Each blast she deflected, each maneuver she executed reminded her of his skill, his courage, and his unwavering dedication. "Keep it steady," she called, her voice echoing over the roar of the battle. "Do not let them overwhelm me." Alex's hands flew across the controls. "I've got it, Your Majesty. Focus on the attack patterns. I'll handle the energy distribution." Time became a blur. Lasers struck the ship and the armor pulsed, glowing brighter with each redirection. Sparks flew as energy arcs carved through enemy vessels, dismantling them piece by piece. Jarka moved like a predator, her energy blade slicing through the void with deadly precision. She had never felt such power before, not just from her own strength, but from the synergy between her and the armor, between herself and the human who had made it possible. Despite the chaos, Alex's voice remained calm. "Watch the left flank. Their formation is changing. I've recalibrated the armor to handle a double strike. You can do this." Jarka's heart pounded, but she obeyed instinctively. She pivoted, parried 2 incoming blasts, and redirected them toward the enemy fleet. 2 ships exploded in succession, their debris scattering across the void. Crew members on the observation deck cheered again, but Jarka felt only a rising tide of awe. She had trusted a human with her life, and he had not only met expectations, he had exceeded them in ways she could not have imagined. Suddenly, an enemy command ship appeared at the edge of the fleet, larger and more formidable than the rest. Its weapons glowed with deadly energy, and a massive beam sliced toward the starship. Jarka felt the impact in her bones, the hum of the armor resonating against the attack. She turned to Alex, her voice sharp and urgent. Human, can it handle this? Alex's fingers danced across the interface. Yes, but we'll need precise timing. Follow my lead. The Queen moved with flawless coordination, her armor absorbing the blast and returning it with calculated force. The enemy ship shuddered, sparks flying from its hull, then exploded in a brilliant flash. Silence fell for a heartbeat before the crew erupted in cheers. Jarka lowered her weapon, breathing heavily, her chest rising and falling with exhilaration and disbelief. She turned to Alex, her eyes wide and golden, shimmering with something she had never felt before. You saved me, she whispered, voice trembling with awe. Alex shook his head, modest. I just did what needed to be done. Humans endure by adapting, Your Majesty. We survive by thinking, by learning, by acting. That is all. For the first time in her long life, Jarka looked at a human not with condescension, but with respect. Deep, undeniable respect. And somewhere in the back of her mind, a seed of admiration, maybe even trust, began to grow. The battle was won, but in that victory, something far greater had been forged. A bond between Queen and human, between strength and ingenuity, between courage and determination. The galaxy might see humans as fragile and insignificant, but here, in the void of space, they had proven their worth in a way no alien could ignore. And Alex, standing quietly amid the chaos, allowed himself the smallest of smiles. He had not just repaired armor. He had changed the course of a battle, and perhaps even the heart of an alien queen. The battle was over, but the starship hummed with the aftershocks of conflict. Smoke drifted through damaged corridors, and faint sparks flared from overloaded circuits. The alien crew worked tirelessly to repair systems, but the focus of the entire fleet, and especially of the Queen, was on the human engineer who had made survival possible. Jarka stood in the central chamber, her golden eyes fixed on Alex. For centuries, she had ruled with power, fear, and authority. Aliens feared her wrath, and humans were dismissed as fragile and insignificant. Yet here was one, small and seemingly fragile, who had changed everything. Her armor gleamed with the enhancements he had installed, reflecting the soft lights of the chamber like a living star. You risked your life for me, she said quietly, her voice carrying a mixture of awe and curiosity. For my survival, for my armor. No alien would dare to do what you did. Alex looked at her, calm but honest. I did not do it for praise, Your Majesty. I did it because it mattered. Your life mattered. The ship, the crew, they mattered. Humans endure by protecting what is important. That is how we survive. Jarka studied him. His words were simple, but they carried weight she had never experienced before. There was no hidden agenda, no desire for power. Just dedication, focus, and courage. The kind of courage that did not roar but endured silently, steadily and persistently. For the first time, she felt something she had never allowed herself to feel: vulnerability. She realized that her power alone could not have saved her in the battle. It was Alex's ingenuity, his skill, and his unwavering focus that had kept her alive. And that realization sparked a deep, unfamiliar respect, an emotion alien to her species. Humans, she said slowly, as if tasting the word, are remarkable. Perhaps I underestimated your kind. Alex shook his head, modest. We are not remarkable, Your Majesty. We just try harder. We adapt, we endure. And sometimes that is enough to survive. Silence stretched between them, but it was not empty. It was filled with unspoken understanding. Jarka realized that she had trusted a human with her life, and he had not just met expectations, he had exceeded them. His calm presence had steadied her in ways no alien advisor ever could, and she found herself wondering for the first time if humans could be more than allies, if they could be equals, partners, even friends. The Queen stepped closer, her massive form towering over Alex. Yet there was no threat in her movement. She placed her clawed hand gently on the armor, as if acknowledging the life and effort he had poured into it. "You have done more than repair my armor," she whispered. "You have changed me, showed me a way to trust, to rely on someone outside my species. That is rare." Alex met her gaze, his expression steady. "It is only natural to value trust when survival depends on it. Humans endure by depending on each other, and sometimes on others who are different. That is how we grow stronger." For the first time in centuries, Jarka smiled, a small, genuine curve of her lips. Not the smile of a ruler to her subjects, but the smile of someone touched by courage and care, someone beginning to see beyond power and fear. The rest of the crew watched quietly, sensing the change in the Queen. They had seen battles and victories, but nothing like this. A bond, quiet but strong, forming between alien and human. It was subtle, almost invisible, yet powerful enough to shift the dynamics of the entire fleet. And in that moment, Alex realized that his work was never just about machines or armor. It was about people, about trust, about courage that endured not in shouts or displays of strength, but in calm determination and care for others. Jarka looked at him one last time before turning to address her crew. "This human has earned more than respect," she said, her voice steady but carrying weight. "He has proven that courage is not measured by size or species. It is measured by the heart, the mind, and the will to endure." Alex simply nodded, a quiet satisfaction settling over him. In that quiet chamber, amidst the hum of the ship and the lingering tension of battle, a bond had been forged that would change the course of their lives, and perhaps even the future of the galaxy itself. The battle was over. The enemy fleet had been defeated, scattered into the void like shattered stars. The starship floated silently, bearing the marks of war but standing strong, thanks to the combined efforts of Jarka and the human who had changed everything. In the central chamber, the Queen's armor gleamed with renewed brilliance, reflecting the soft lights and the countless sparks from repair systems. Yet her attention was not on the shining metal. It was on Alex, standing quietly, his hands still marked with soot and sweat, his expression calm despite the chaos around them. For centuries, Jarka had ruled alone, relying on fear, strength, and the loyalty of her subjects. Aliens obeyed her because they had no choice, and humans were little more than tools to be tolerated. But Alex had proven that humans were something else entirely. They were more than fragile bodies. They were courage, ingenuity, and perseverance in living form. They could survive when all odds were against them, not by brute force, but by thinking, adapting, and never giving up. "You have changed how I see humans," Jarka said softly, her voice carrying a mixture of awe, respect, and something she had never named before. "No alien has ever dared to touch my armor, let alone improve it. Yet you not only repaired it, but made it stronger than before. And in doing so, you saved my life." Alex bowed his head modestly. "I only did what needed to be done, Your Majesty. Humans endure by protecting what is important. Your life, the crew, the ship, these mattered. That was enough for me." Jarka studied him. There was no arrogance in his words, no selfish desire for recognition, only honesty, courage, and dedication, the traits she now realized she had underestimated. She felt a stirring in her chest, a warmth she had never allowed herself to acknowledge. Respect had grown into trust, and trust into something deeper, something meaningful. From that day forward, Alex was no longer just a human engineer. He became a trusted advisor to the Queen, a symbol of human ingenuity and courage within the alien fleet. Aliens who had once doubted him now looked to him with awe. He demonstrated that strength was not only measured by power or size, but by the mind, the heart, and the will to act when others faltered. Humans, once dismissed as fragile, had proven themselves capable of greatness in ways the galaxy had never seen. Jarka's respect for Alex grew daily. She would watch him quietly at his work, repairing systems, enhancing technologies, and thinking 3 steps ahead, and she would remember the moment he had saved her life. Not with weapons, but with patience, observation, and determination. In time, she realized that humans could not only survive, they could thrive, inspire, and lead. And she found herself smiling more often, quietly acknowledging the lessons she had learned from a species she had once underestimated. Years later, when new recruits asked why she trusted a human more than most aliens, Jarka's golden eyes would glint with pride. He fixed my armor, and in doing so, he fixed something inside me as well. That is why humans endure. That is why they will always be worthy of respect. Alex, now older and wiser, would often stand in the chamber and watch the Queen move in her armor, flawless and powerful, and quietly reflect on that first day, the day he had taken a risk and trusted his skills, and the day the galaxy began to see humans differently. He knew that he had not merely repaired metal and energy circuits. He had changed perceptions, forged bonds, and inspired courage in beings who had never imagined such things were possible. In the end, it was not the strength of weapons or fleets that determined survival. It was courage, ingenuity, persistence, and the willingness to act when all hope seemed lost. Humans endured because they refused to give up, because they cared, and because they believed that even the smallest actions could change the course of history. And in the vast emptiness of the galaxy, amid stars and silence, the name of a lone human engineer became a legend, whispered with awe by aliens and humans alike. He had fixed more than armor. He had fixed faith in what humans could achieve. And through that, he had secured his place not as a servant, not as a subordinate, but as a symbol of the extraordinary potential of humankind. The Queen and the humans stood together, side by side, looking out at the stars, knowing that the galaxy had changed forever, and that sometimes one determined human could shine brighter than any armor or weapon ever could. The end.